Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. Saturday morning, it's a little early. Believe me, we feel it. But we'd like to welcome you all to our session, Freaky Friday, a day in which a developer and a project manager switch places. I'd like to remind you folks, we are respectively a professional project manager, a professional developer, not professional actors. So.
No fruit, please. We hope this gives you a humorous look at a project from one another's perspective, which is something we don't always take enough time to do. The names, clients, and exact timelines in this little skit have been changed to protect the guilty and or completely fabricated. And I will warn you, we have liberally applied some poetic license, so take it with a grain of salt.
So a couple of quick introductions. My name is Toby Hagler. I am a director of engineering at Phase 2. I've been developing for almost 2 decades. Most of the important ones with Felicia here. 12 of those have been working in Drupal, which means we've grown our careers together, learning from our mistakes and helping each other see the bigger picture. And yeah, 19 years ago, I probably did have that kind of chin. I also have the greatest superpower of all, which is turning whiskey into code.
And I'm Felicia Haynes. I'm an account director at Phase 2. And yes, I have spent most of my adult working life with this guy. You can give me your condolences later. We have built our very first Drupal site in 4.6, not long after it was released. So when we were practicing this with several friends, they went, "Oh God, you guys are old." So we learned a lot of lessons over the years about what not to do on a project, what's going to keep you up at night, what's going to make your client sad. And since we've been making these mistakes for years, we're hoping we can help you avoid some of them, or at least laugh at ours.
Our story begins. A top Drupal agency, Cliche, has landed an amazing new client, LabX. They have sent their top project manager and their lead developer to spend 5 days on site to kick off the project.
Cliche is so cleverly cliche that they use the TM as the accent mark on the E, because.
Clever. But all is not harmonious. Setting an agenda the two can agree upon is proving challenging. Even right up into the meet and greet, the afternoon before discovery meetings kicked off, they're still trying to hammer out the details in the hallway of LabX's building. Felicia, this agenda you put together is crap. We need to just kind of ditch a lot of it. I don't think you've gotten anything important in here, and it's way too long.
You're out of your mind. My agenda is great. I have all the important stuff in there for the project plan. We have to get this kicked off properly and make sure we're getting off the right foot with our client. I know you developers are all antisocial, and this is a lot of time with people, but we need to spend quality time with the client and ask questions and build a relationship to get this off right.
Yeah. And all you project managers want to do is talk and have more of your meetings. Why on Earth's 1 and 2 would you have more than 2 hours for a goals exercise? God, what a waste. Unfortunately for them, our hapless heroes are in the middle of a heated discussion just outside the experimental sciences lab when all of a sudden, kaboom! As they argued, an explosion rocked the lab. Our heroes were dazed and confused.
What the? Why can't I see my feet? And why are my shoes so damn uncomfortable?
And what's up with my face? Why are my cheeks so itchy? And why am I wearing jeans to a client meeting?
Hey, jeans make you look hip and cool. I mean, people expect developers to dress down or they wouldn't take us seriously.
Well, yeah, and heels make you feel more tall and confident. Speaking of tall, wait a minute. Why are you down there? Why am I down there? Are you in my body?
Holy moly. What are you doing in my body? What are they experimenting on in there?
OMG. Do you remember that old movie, Freaky Friday? I'm not talking about the terrible one with Lindsay Lohan, but the good one with young Jodie Foster from 1976.
I would never have seen that.
I think that might have happened to us.
Are we stuck? I cannot be this short forever. But I also cannot wear these heels. Where are your flip-flops? I know you have flip-flops.
They're in my bag, but no, you cannot have them until after the meeting.
This is very, very weird. What are we gonna do? I mean, you know, from what people say, not that I've seen the movies, but the kid and the mom kind of have to learn to appreciate each other's point of view before they can switch back. Not that I've seen the movies. You know, this is gonna ruin everything. There is no way you can fake any development cred for 5 days.
But they had a meeting with their client. All right. Wait. Focus. I got this. Look, we just have to get through the introductions today. You think you can handle that?
Yeah, of course I can handle that. I mean,
Yeah, okay, look, I'll tell them, hi, hi, I'm Toby and I'm the tech lead. I make stuff and I love to reinvent the wheel and all my estimates are overly ambitious.
do not sound like that. You know, no problem, I got this. Wait, I got this. Hi, I'm Felicia, and I'm the project manager. I schedule lots of meetings, and I interrupt developers all the time while they're working, and I make spreadsheets no one looks at. Oh, and I love puppies.
Oh, okay, look, I got this. Right after this meeting is done, we need to go have a drink and work this out, okay? We need a plan if we're going to survive this. We need a plan. I'll coach you on how to act like a project manager, and you can tell me, I don't know, some of your buzzwords. So you know, and then we'll just sort out this other problem later, okay?
You know, yeah, I get it, but I really need to tell you exactly what to say. It's not just buzzwords. You know, that IT department's going to eat you alive if you can't fake this for a couple days.
Later at the hotel bar. Okay, Felicia. That introduction didn't suck. Good job, I guess. Because it's 9 o'clock somewhere.
Well, I think taking him to the bar helped.
All right. So, I've got a copy of the agenda for us to go through. You're going to need to be able to run through every point of it. So we just need to sort this out. And figure out how to get through however long this is going to take without the client figuring out that something's wrong.
Okay, let's just go through the sessions and figure out how to fake it. I mean, 4 days is a long time. It seems like we should have done this whole thing in a couple of hours. Why do we need this much time? We are spending so much time on defining goals. I mean, we just need to build a website. Seriously, dude. We're just gonna do this with Agile, right? I mean, that means we just make it up for each sprint until we're done.
Oh, hey. You're the one that's taking up way too much time for automation and development workflow. I mean, why aren't we just using the same workflow we always do? Look, I got this. Let's just go through the whole agenda, point by point. I'll clarify my plan of what we need to do. We've already done the introductions. We'll just go ahead and start with the goals.
Okay, let me look at this thing. How do you write these? I have no idea what you're doing. Okay, it seems like we have way too much time in this section of the agenda. I mean, goals should be pretty easy. We just need to ask them for other requirements. How hard is this?
We have to ask what it is that we're really after. I mean, without knowing what the real needs are and what the underlying goals are, how can you meet them, right? All right, so you remember that time when we worked with generic news feed and the client said that they wanted those lists of stories for each main event. They wanted it to be automated to have the top 10 most relevant stories for each event.
That was the coolest project ever. I mean, it was awesome. We built this sweet system that ranks stories by popularity based on their page views, and it was all within event-specific feeds. And then, it was during a certain time frame, and then I calculated the relevance based on number of keywords for that event that showed up in the body, and it was some of the coolest stuff I've ever built. It was sweet.
Yeah, but it also took you 6 weeks to develop, and the client had absolutely no control over the results.
So
you had to redo the whole thing, and you ended up giving them exactly what they wanted in just 2 days using what what was it?
No Q.
No Q with a Q? And views?
Views.
Anyway, I mean, it was pre-populated automatically with the latest stories that just let them pin a story to every spot on the list. And I know that they said that they wanted it to be automated. That's not really what they meant.
They said they wanted it automated.
They meant that they wanted to automatically have some defaults available.
Oh God, that was a long weekend. I mean, I guess I can kind of see your point about why understanding why a client wants a feature could help us avoid that, but it was still pretty cool anyway.
Yeah, it was cool, but understanding their goals are going to help us to help the client prioritize things too. So there's no way we can do everything on their wish list. And I know that you want to gold plate a thing or two, but we really need to be those things to be all of what the stakeholders care about.
Well, all the stakeholders? I mean, how many people do we have to talk to in the next couple of days? I mean, okay, I guess I can go around the room in that session and be like, okay, who needs to sign off on this? Who needs to sign off on this? All right, we're done. That's going to take 10 minutes. I mean, come on. You made us all sit down during that internal kickoff meeting and go through the contract and the scope. And, you know, it said we had one point of contact for this project. Julie, right? Over in corporate communications.
Yeah.
I mean,
officially.
There is somebody else I'd like to talk to. I really, really care about meeting Gene, that IT guy, because he'll be the one that sets up all our access for the VPN and servers.
Now see, that won't take very long at all, will it? Don't they just need to create some accounts for you and the other developers? We'll just handle that through email. I think you need to meet with LabX's business director and hear what their long-term business plans are so that you'll understand their needs better.
Is that really necessary? I mean, why would you do something like that? You need to talk to Gene. I mean, you. It could take us weeks to get approval for VPN access and to get our fobs, not to mention how long it'll take to convince them that you can have sudo access. Don't mess that up for me. Don't you remember that project with the teachers group? I mean, since we were working with marketing, we went round and round for weeks playing telephone with their IT department to get access. Ellie knows how much time we lost. And, you know, once we got IT on the phone, it took a half hour. We definitely need to know them or we're going to have that problem again.
Yeah, that made us 2 weeks late on delivery. Yeah, I can see your point.
I also need to talk with the other developers on their team. I need to find out who knows what and who can code and who's going to build modules and who might need a little more hand-holding. I don't know how many of them are going to work with our team. You know, I mean, I'm not a business gal, but why would I care about their business model? We're working with the corporate communications team.
Look. When you hear how LabX is expecting to grow next year, and when they renew their budget, you're going to be aware of what else this Drupal site will eventually need to do so that you don't paint yourself into a corner, okay? So remember that time we built that quick little brochure site for Pharmacy? One of our points of contact told us, oh, just support the latest browsers. We want an amazing dynamic experience. We want it to be fully responsive with a mosaic layout and lots of animation, right?
That was the sweetest interface.
Yeah, and then it wasn't until the day we launched that we found out that all of their business units across the country were on imaged machines and they only had IE7.
I've blocked that out of my memory. I just want to be clear.
Yeah, remember nothing worked, and we talked to some of their stakeholders. None of this would have happened. And so I need you to make sure that you're involving everyone that's got some skin in the game.
Oh God, that was right. I spent the whole weekend rebuilding those sites. My wife was pissed. It would have been easier if we'd known that from the start. So maybe we need to spend a little time with each of the client stakeholders. I mean, it does sound like they have a vital role to play. It's going to be kind of funny as the IT guy and the business director would swap bodies too.
Oh, what a terrifying thought. Yeah, okay, so I'll try to spend some time with the IT guy, and I'll try to make sure there's plenty of time in the schedule for you to get what you need from his staff.
Fine, but just listen a lot and try not to talk too much. I mean, I definitely need him to give me sudo access, and you could convince him I'm an idiot.
All right, look, let's table that for now. Let's talk about scope real quick.
Oh, this is a fixed scope project. Why would we have to talk about it? I mean, I'm not sure why we have to spend this long session going through this again. Sales already did all this work.
Yeah, they did. That's why we need to go over it again in great detail. Because remember that time, sales was having trouble closing the deal with Magazines R Us to move all of their sites to Drupal. They kept cutting and cutting and cutting, trying to trim the price down until the client could afford it. And then we all assumed that the corresponding features were trimmed from scope as well, but the client thought this project was a lift and shift. We spent weeks going back and forth trying to close the project out, debating what was in and out of scope. That was not a positive way to end the project.
I do remember you crying a lot at the end of that project.
God, I ugly cried.
So I guess you kind of just want to rip that Band-Aid off right now?
I prefer to think of it as setting proper expectations, but yeah. Look, having that conversation now is going to allow us to make sure that everyone there is on the same page and they get the site that they're expecting. Between the goals and the scope, we can set priorities and maybe discuss some trade-offs instead of having some nasty surprises at the end that the client's not going to be happy about, and help them keep to their budget.
I guess we can put these priorities. We just need to make sure they're in the right order, because we can't even think about doing the migration before the content types are created. I mean, this is...
Hold that thought. Hold that thought until we get to the project plan. It's a little bit further down on the agenda. Had you read it?
Like I said, you have a lot of fluff in this agenda. Well, we have... Oh, sorry. Excuse me for a second. So I'm looking at the agenda again, and we do have this whole section before you get to the project plan and requirements and everything. You know, we have this whole section on budget. It's fixed, so why are we talking about it? Just kind of like sales already did this. I mean, I guess we could say, you know, you have to pay us $1 million and we will deliver your site. That seems like it was covered. I mean, we have a big budget. There is plenty of money. It's $1 million.
There's no such thing as plenty of budget, ever. And our bosses expect us to make a lot of money, not lose it. It's kind of like going over scope with a client.
I get that we can't go crazy, but some of the stuff they want us to build is really cool. You know, me and the team might just put in a couple extra nights or maybe a little weekend time, and we can get some of this done. I mean, I really want to learn React too.
Yeah, but then you're just giving the company away. And look, this company does not run on love. All right, remember that time we were working on Diet Y project? And you got all excited about all their new APIs, so you worked every weekend for a month building all those apps? Our client loved them, right?
Yes, they did.
But instead of doing all that extra work
that was so awesome. Toby, you're so cool.
Yeah, they were cool, and the client loved them, but instead of doing all that extra work that was out of scope and not in their budget, we could have maybe just built one of those and use that to upsell the client on a phase 2, because everyone knows phase 2 is where the money's at.
True that. Well, I guess I could just start laying the groundwork for some of it now and start a couple of things. I mean, I don't really have to finish them until later. I guess that could be an upsell.
But look, sometimes less is more. It's better to create 2 or 3 complete features than 6 half-complete things. All right, so no cowboy prototypes, Toby, whatever. Weird.
Take all the fun out of everything. You know, I've never thought about it that way, so it sounds like if I go down a rabbit hole or go overboard, you know, that kind of hurts our roadmap, and it could impact Cliché's ability to increase my personal budget.
Yeah. But keep some of that in your back pocket, because you may see a chance to upsell them on a new feature that they hadn't considered before and they could find more budget for later. So we could totally bring that up for a phase 2.
Okay, I'm looking at the agenda. I'm still not sure I can get through this. This is going to be bad. You have a whole section for comms with the client. This is like a half hour of talking about how we're going to email. Why on earth are you so damn specific? It seems like overkill. I mean, we can just chat in Slack whenever we need something.
But I need to be able to keep our client up to date and manage the whole team. I can't just have you ignoring me when I need to get an answer really fast. Look, I'm the one that has to explain things to Lab X, and there's nothing worse than sitting there with a dumb look on my face and have to say, oh, I'll get back to you.
I bet that does suck. I've seen that look on your face. But or my face?
Yeah.
This is weird. I want to remind you about that CMS project we built for sports ball. I mean, I ended up working every single night because of you. You scheduled for me for meetings all day long, and then every time I actually had a small block of time to work, somebody would ping me in Slack, and then everything was gone. I mean, context switching. The struggle is real.
Yeah. I remember I had to buy you a very nice bottle of scotch for that project. Look, I want to establish a standardized response time so that won't happen. So LabX, me, and all the other development team, we all understand that we have to do weekly updates and regular stakeholder meetings and milestone demos every 2 weeks and scrums every day, and that we need to have turnaround time for questions that they bring up within 24 hours. That way you know what meetings are important for you to attend, and then you can have a dedicated time block for development. Look, I even promised that I will label all my requests from now on as close of business, or when you can, or now.
Can we put that in the agenda for the client too, in this communications plan? Because, and I would like to add the status of never.
We'll see. Yeah. Look, I know we have this entire afternoon session on the agenda for discussing requirements, but I think maybe this is one we can actually cut back.
No.
Look, we have a couple of things to talk about once we've reviewed the scope, and I want you to be able to focus on getting the project plan in place. So, for instance, this session you want just for an hour to talk about the big migration from their old CMS? We could probably dial that one back. I mean, sales sold them on that already, so they're convinced, and they've already estimated it at 6 weeks. So we've done migrations before.
Right, that is ridiculous. That migration is going to take at least 14 weeks. Are you kidding me?
But you did that last CMS migration in half that time.
Yeah, that last project for Health B was just Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 migration from a single database. When I was talking to Gene, who you didn't want to spend time with, I just want to say, we were setting up this meeting. He told me for this project that we are merging content from 2 custom CMSs and a WordPress blog site, and they're all hosted in different environments. That's why I need to talk to him to get access, and that's why it's going to take 14 weeks.
But once you write the first one, the rest should be easy, right?
A migration is not a migration is not a migration. I mean, probably not. We really need to dig in on these and talk to the data team to make sure we've got this right. That's true of a lot of these features on this list. I mean, I hate to say this. God, I really hate to say this. But I guess maybe some regular check-ins with the data team wouldn't hurt as we go through. I mean, as long as we know what we're talking about in each meeting and keep them short.
Oh, okay, look. I got this. I promise that all meetings will have agendas. And it sounds like we will maybe need this whole session.
And this one.
Well, let's make sure that you have all the topics that we'll need to dive in deeper so that you can make sure that all the right folks from LabX are scheduled to be in those meetings.
Who do I need to talk to for that?
Well, so maybe that'll help it go faster, right? And so, just remember the budget and the schedule.
Yeah. I still got to figure out how you want me to schedule these things, but, schedules and project plans is kind of all you ever talk about.
Oh, yeah, tell me about it.
I guess I'm going to have to walk the client through this timeline you created, but, I don't get why you have the project plan laid out like this. I mean, look at this. I know I said this would only take 2 weeks, this integrating this API, and you've put it in for 4 weeks on this schedule.
Yeah, maybe that would take 2 weeks for you to develop it, but I need you leading the other developers, and they're not going to be as experienced, and it's going to take them twice as long, and I need you just focusing on the complicated stuff.
Well, I guess over here, we could probably just use 2 developers and take on these 2 tasks and shorten that up a little.
Oh, hey, what if I get you 6 developers?
That is, no. And what would I have them do? I mean, maybe I could pair a few of them up on certain things, but you just can't have 6 developers building a module and get it done any faster. I mean, remember when we did the project for Woolly Sweater? They kept throwing money at us and kept adding developers trying to get the project done faster. And all we ended up doing was spending more time onboarding and more time managing. 9 developers cannot make a site in 1 month. Just saying. It seems like you have a lot of padding in here still.
Yeah.
I mean, Look at this.
Yeah, for the same reason that we're talking about the migration earlier. We're bound to find some things that we didn't fully understand in the project, and I'd rather set the expectation that we'll have a slightly longer timeline up front than springing it on them right before launch.
Well, if we want to,
Look, if you want to cut schedule, maybe we could just skip sprint 0.
what?
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't, that seems like a lot of time to spend on something the client's not even going to see.
No, I still need to start up the development environments. I need to get the Docker containers built and ready. I need to set up an install profile and do my first config export. I mean, we need to be ready for the development team to start. We can't just jump in and start coding.
But why do you need a whole week for that? Why can't you just use the same containers that you used on the last project?
No, it's just not the same. I mean, the last project used PHP 5.6 in Apache, and this new project will have production servers with PHP 7.1 and Nginx. I mean, we need to have the development environment match what will go into production. You remember when we did that site for Weekly News, and we used PHP 5.6 VMs? Yeah, when we went to launch that site, their servers were on PHP 5.5. That was 5.6 VMs, sorry. Yeah. And the PDF library we were using for everything caused seg faults because the version had a really nasty bug in the APC code cache. That took us over a week to resolve. We had to roll the launch back after we launched it because the server kept crashing. The hosting company just wanted to create a script to restart the server every 30 minutes.
Oh, God. Yeah, the website kept crashing every 33 minutes, like when the Cylons were tracking the fleet. Yeah, so, all right, so maybe version matching sounds really, really critical, so I can see why you might have to customize your containers. But a whole week?
Well, I have to do it in between meetings because, yes, schedule a lot if you haven't noticed. And otherwise it would only take me 2 days. But if you cut sprint 0 out entirely, when the other developers ramp up on the project, they'll be sitting on their hands until I get them something to work with. And that's going to take a long time. It's just lost time. And that affects our budget.
Our budget? Nice. Yeah, so look, we still have a delivery date though to worry about, and I'm worried that this is going to start cutting into QA and remediation time.
I mean, are we going to have the client test everything at the milestone deliverables? I mean, why do we have to have so much remediation time?
We always need remediation time. I mean, honestly, no client I've ever worked with seems to really fully understand a system until they start using it, right? It's kind of like, they start entering content and they use it for all the day-to-day stuff, and that's where you start seeing the flaws in implementation.
There are no flaws in my architecture. But speaking of flaws, I do want to talk to you about QA. I'm looking over the agenda here, and we need to make sure we have covered automated testing. You don't have it on here anywhere. I mean, that's how we cut down on remediation on site.gov. They were having problems with every single code deploy across tons of sites. We would roll it out, and something would break randomly that we didn't even work on. It was seriously disrupting my sleep, which I do not like. We added a regression suite, and now our deployments go smoothly, and I sleep like a baby. We could just code those as we develop. I would like to build time into these sprints.
Well, look, I mean, at this point already, the timeline's pretty tight. I'm going to already have to have everybody at full capacity for feature development.
Yeah. But since now I'm the PM, I'm going to be running this agenda, and we're going to need some BHAT tests.
That's what the QA team's for.
And regression testing, and PHP unit testing. And if I can automate a nightly integration build with Jenkins and run BHAT visual regression tests to make sure one change doesn't break another, or worse yet, the whole site. Yeah, and I definitely want to make sure that I have PHP code sniffer on my pre-commit Git hooks. I mean,
No. I need you, or wait, you as the PM, you need me, I guess. And the rest of the team coding as much as we can. We can't possibly sell all of the BHAT.
BHAT.
Yeah, we can't possibly sell all that to the client. They'll never see it. Besides, they'll just say that paying for bugs, they're not paying for bugs. So why bother with all those tests in the first place? It's hard enough to convince them that we need a QA analyst.
Bugs happen. It's just a reality. But these tests catch bugs before QA ever sees them. And that way we don't need to spend so much time and overhead going back and forth, and QA can make sure that the feature is meeting the requirement instead of worrying about, this broke an IE and Sally can't see it on her iPhone. It makes us look like coding gods. And nothing messes up your schedule worse than a code release breaking the entire QA site. Well, I'm sorry, our schedule. My schedule.
Well, so it sounds like you're saying that this might take a little time up front, but that it might reduce bugs overall. So it sounds like it's an investment, really.
Yeah, and it'll save us a lot of time in the long run because it'll prevent broken features from ever going to staging. And QA doesn't even have to spend all their time updating tickets with minor bugs and kicking them back to developers.
That actually sounds great. Why haven't we been doing this before?
Because no PM ever wants to leave time for automated testing.
On that, we could both agree.
At least there's room in our timeline for documentation. I mean, I'll be able to prepare some technical design plans for the rest of the team, and I can start going in.
Wait. That time is for writing a user manual to train the client's editorial team?
Yeah, but we need to document what the code does and where things are. We need to document how the API integration works, so when we turn this over, the maintenance team can pick it up and run with it. I mean, if you add developers halfway through, I'm going to have to ramp them up, and the documentation's going to help a lot with that.
Well, that actually kind of does make sense. Maybe I can find something in the schedule to make your developers have a little bit more time to document things as they go. Based on how the rest of this conversation's gone, I'm going to guess that maybe both types of documentation are important. So it is kind of finally nice to finally agree on something.
That's true. So understanding who our stakeholders are and why they want things actually helps me deliver better features and possibly not work weekends.
And maybe setting up environments and tools and setting up some automated testing right at the start of the project actually can save time in the long run.
And it turns out all those meetings you're setting up are actually useful now that I understand what we're trying to get out of them.
Oh, well, hey, and I'll try not to assume that when I see an empty block in your calendar that it's a good time to drop in a few more meeting invites. And so if we're going to save time with proper tests and allow the developers to keep pushing forward instead of having to backtrack and juggle tickets all the time, I guess maybe it's worth it. And anything that increases velocity, I'm all for that.
Oh, and making sure we plan for things to go wrong helps us keep on track with our client when they do go wrong. That makes sense to me now. You're not a total pessimist that likes to nag me. Maybe you are pulling your weight around here. Put her there.
Oh, come here. And just like that, they were back to normal. Felicia, what did you do to my beard?
You don't put face cream on it? I was really kind of dizzying being all that tall. I don't know how you do it.
I was kind of getting used to bossing you around, but I'll tell you what, I am thrilled to be down out of those damn hills.
Yeah, me too. Isn't it better when we all work together?
And so our heroes found some common ground and solved all their problems, but I think they might have forgot to talk to marketing. All right.
It's a little silly, but.
So we hope some of the dramatizations could maybe help think about some of the perspectives that other people that have roles in your projects have to consider. But we'd like to leave a little bit of time for questions if anybody has anything.
For either one of us?
Or as either one of us.
Cheers. Tasty apple juice.
All right. Well, here's to a successful launch. Thank you.
We did warn you, we're not professional actors.
They know now. All right. Well, thanks, everyone.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Just curious, with all the years that you spent on working on different projects together and things, have you worked on, is it a big team or a small team, and how that changes or has changed over the years in being able to communicate across different people on the team?
So the question is, over the years we've worked together, what size of teams we've worked on, big or small, and how do we manage communications between the different teams? So we've actually worked on a number of different
the whole
size
range.
teams. You know, from a couple of developers to 10 or 20 developers on a project. Communications are always a little bit different for every project. There's a couple of things you have to consider. Obviously, you know, communications internally are pretty easy to consider, right? Like you have your internal chat programs, you have emails and shared calendars and that sort of thing. And that helps, you know, we're a distributed team. So we use a lot of those types of tools to keep in touch with each other internally. But when we're dealing with clients, what we find is every client also has their own set of internal communications tools. And so you have to kind of learn to be a little bit adaptable to their means of communications. Also in these kickoff meetings, one of the things that we find, and Felicia's taught me this over the number of years, so I'm staying in the PM role, I guess, but is learning your client's company culture, like how they respond, pay attention to things like, when everybody asks a question, who does everybody look to in the room, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
And while it does seem a little silly to set aside maybe a half hour in your agenda on an on-site to talk about communications early on, and it does, I'll admit it, it does pay off because you get through those questions. Oh, well, we use Flowdoc. Oh, you use Slack. Okay, can we all have a channel together? We'll do that. Oh, we like to answer questions within 24 hours or within 48 hours so that we can let the devs kind of have some development time, and the clients will, but if I'm asking you a question, why aren't you answering it right away? Just setting expectations with both the project team, especially when you're getting a new team in sometimes that hasn't worked with you before, and with your client and everything early on does help those things go a little more smoothly. Because I think there's usually a big mismatch between what your client wants, what me as the PM wants, and what my developer wants.
So the simple way to start figuring out the right mix of communications is just listen early on. Just ask a lot of questions. Don't make any assumptions because chances are the things that you're assuming about your projects in the past they had never considered, and vice versa.
We do have some pretty standard strategies for different size teams based on the amount of time we've worked together. So there are some things you want to do with a very large team versus a very small team. You can be a lot more casual and go, yeah, I'll just ping you in Slack when there's 3 of you. And when there's 20, it's like, okay, no, we have, developer scrum, we have the migration scrum, we have a scrum of scrums, and the PMs are meeting once a day,
Yeah, also in larger teams when you're dealing with like 20 and 30 developers, sometimes it's good to break things up into, basically epics. Like if you're used to using epics in Jira to assign like large swaths of site functionality, you can have one person that's the owner for each epic. So if you have the owner for migration and the owner for API integration and the owner for front end, and then you can have the PMs might meet with the owners of these things every day. That way the developers are able to remain free, and it keeps communication a little bit more centralized. Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you.
If you've saved up your rotten fruit to throw us at your friend, go for it now.